Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
This is a board game designed by one of the most well-known board game designers of all time, Reiner Knizia. Now, a lot of his games tend to feel the same, even though they have different mechanisms. They're usually abstract, they usually involve a lot of math, and they're usually pretty solid to great. This is one that I felt was maybe he was going for more of a family atmosphere. It's a very simple game. The rules are very crisp, very easy to understand, and it has adorable artwork. And those are the things that I like about the game. The negatives of the game is it's really just memory mixed with area control. And if you flip over things and get a little bit lucky, maybe you can memorize better than somebody else. You're going to do better in this game. You're going to have better combinations and control more areas of the board. That luck factor, combined with the lack of meaningful decisions, just kind of took it out of the reach for me. And it wasn't something I was going to pull my kids in and play, so it wasn't going to be a good family game for us. Just the style of game that isn't going to work for us. I find aspects of this game a little bit better in different games. Now, that doesn't mean it's a terrible game. It just means it's a game that doesn't fit for me. The luck factor was a little bit over the top about the memory aspect of it, and memory isn't a huge genre of games that I enjoy. It is something I'll play with the kids sometimes. A lot of kids' games tend to have memory in it, but it isn't something that I'm jonesing for or want. Now, the game, like I said, is adorable. It's got really great artwork, which brings kind of a universe into it and does elevate the game above what it probably is. But there's a reason why nobody really talks about this game or talked about it, and it's just kind of a game I think somebody released to maybe fill out a portfolio versus something they thought, hey, this is going to knock people's socks off and be a great game. And quite honestly, it's really not. The luck factor is just too high in it. The decisions aren't interesting or meaningful, and I just feel like this is something you could absolutely skip. Now, if you like the artwork, maybe this is something that'll work out for your family, but for everybody else, this is definitely going to be a purge. So here is a very attractive box. I like this artwork on it quite a bit. I think it's very inviting. I like the cartoon look, and TMG does a great job at that most of the time. We have a rule book, which we'll take a look in a few minutes, but you can see the artwork. And you'll have these player aids. Now, you're going to have different genders on the player aids, different characters. None of it matters. There's no individual things, but this kind of tells you how to go through the game and score, I suppose. They are double-sided, which is fine. You'll get a board, which we'll take a look at in a second. Then you're going to get a bunch of bits. So the first thing you do is get buildings in different colors. These are little miniatures. They are fine. I think they're really neat. And for a game like this that's as abstract as this, these are pretty nice little pieces that you're going to get. And you're going to get these in a few different colors, as you can see here. You're going to get a number of these tiles. Now, these tiles are very thick. TMG always has really good components, you can see here. I mean, a little bit generic, I suppose, but the game in itself is a little bit generic. Then you're going to have these tiles, which you'll use for most of the game. And these will just be the tiles that you're pulling over. A little small, but there's a lot of them, and they fit on the board. The fish are going to be the wild cards, but this is mostly what you'll be flipping over. You can see just little generic artwork on it, sheep and stuff. They are very thick. As with TMG, they always get good components. So there you go. Those are the components. Without any markings on it, and this one will have the different regions and etc. that are on it. You're going to see the 2 tracks going down the side of it and places for all of the tokens. Here's the rule book. Now, it's kind of weird how it opens up. It doesn't open up like a normal rule book. Instead, it's going to open up like a map. And you can see here it's set up with a picture that you can see right there. And then the gameplay overview on this side. This is really all that you need to know about the game. And then you flip it over. It'll kind of tell you how to score a little bit. And at the end of the game scoring, that will be here. And then just a picture, more of an advertisement, anything. So pretty easy to understand. Not very hard. Probably takes you about 10, maybe 15 minutes to get through this. The rules are crispy and clear. And I didn't have any issues with reading it and no rules questions. Excellent job, as usual, by TMG. So this is what the game will look like set up. This is a bear to set up. You got to put all these individual tiles out. You got to put a number of these out. So the game has a little bit of setup for what the game is. On your turn, it's very simple. You can turn over any 3 tiles that you want. And then you choose one of all of that type that's open on the board. So if I wanted to take this, then I would simply place it on this tracker over here. So the next person would go, and they would turn over 3 tiles of their own, and they can choose whatever they want. So let's talk about what some of these tiles do. If you were to take a wood tile, then you would just take all of the open wood tile that's on the board. the sheep, and the corn would act the same way. You would just take all of them. If you get a building tile and you take those, you can put your buildings out, and you'll have these little buildings that you can put out. So let's say I want to put out the castle. I would take all the face-up castles, not just the ones I turned over, and put out one of these buildings, okay? So these you are collecting, the buildings you are placing out. The 2 tracks you have here will be the end of the game based on how many players that you have. So if the king ones come out here and the queen ones come out here, and they both get to the ending spot, the game will end. But each one of these that you put out, so if you put out 2 in a turn or 3 or 1, you can fill up these empty spots. So if I put that queen out, there's an empty spot, I can put a marker out on that spot to utilize it. So why am I putting these out? At the end of the game, for each set of one of each type, wood, sheep, and corn, I will get 3 victory points, keeping in mind that fish are a wild card and can replace one of these. The way you're able to obtain fish is if you build a building next to a harbor, then you will be able to gain 1 of the fish tokens. Another way to score victory points is to grab one of these, and you grab one of these 9-pointers by having 1 of each type, the fish, the sheep, the corn, and the wood, then I'll score you 9 victory points. You can also score 8 victory points by grabbing one of these compasses by being in each of the regions of the board. If you can tell, this is orange, blue, yellow, purple, so if you have 1 building in each of the regions, you gain an 8 victory point. You can also gain victory points in these regions by grabbing these 2-pointers, and you grab these by having 3 in a location and 5 in a location, so you can grab up to 4 points for each region by building buildings in each region. In addition, you can grab these 3-pointers by connecting regions to regions and building a consecutive amount of buildings there. So if I was able to build maybe something like this, and I'm going through here and I'm connecting 2 different regions, then I'm able to grab one of these 3-pointers, and that can be a very beneficial way to get. So a few different ways to score victory points in the game, but the main mechanism is very easy. I turn over any 3 tiles on the board, and then I can take all those. In this case, I didn't turn over either of these woods, but because they're face up, I can take them. The person with the most victory points at the end of the game is the winner. Who should buy this game? This is simply in people who like a lot of luck in their game, maybe the Munchkin crowd, which the artwork goes in line with, or families who like this kind of game. It's hard for me to recommend this game outside of those 2 groups. It's got the memory aspect to it, so if you don't mind that, I know a lot of gamers don't, but if you do like that, that'll be sufficient. And then you have the area control that you're kind of doing around it. So, lukewarm at best, but not something that I can really recommend in good faith. Purge for me.